You think winter is expensive now? Imagine surviving freezing temperatures with almost no firewood, no heater, no gas, no backup, and somehow making it through. In medieval Europe, wood wasn't always free to burn. Forests belonged to lords, and peasants could be punished for cutting trees. So villagers turned to peat cut from bogs, dried dung, and tightly packed straw instead of precious logs. Their cottages were built like heat traps. Wattle and daub mud walls absorbed warmth from a central hearth and slowly released it at night. Low ceilings and small doors reduced heat loss, and early homes without chimneys let smoke linger near the roof, insulating thatch and beams. Families didn't try to heat empty space. They heated people, sleeping together in curtained beds that trapped body warmth, sometimes even sharing the structure with livestock whose body heat added to the survival system. Winter wasn't fought in December. It was won in summer by cutting peat, drying fuel, repairing roofs, and storing food. The real $0 wood hack wasn't one magical fuel source. It was smart design, tight community, and wasting absolutely nothing, turning small, smoky cottages into surprisingly livable shelters when every spark truly mattered. Winter didn't just arrive in medieval villages. It pressed in from every side, freezing rivers, hardening soil, and testing whether a family had prepared months in advance, because survival wasn't decided in December, but in the heat of summer when peat was cut from bogs, dung was shaped into drying fuel cakes, thatch was repaired, and wattle and daub walls were sealed tight, with mud and straw to block deadly drafts. Inside small, low-ceilinged cottages designed to trap heat rather than impress neighbors, a central hearth burned slow and steady instead of roaring wastefully, its warmth absorbed by thick earthen walls that released stored heat long after flames dimmed, while smoke, lingering near the rafters, far from being a design flaw, acted as insulation and preserved the roof. And families didn't try to heat empty air, but clustered together under heavy wool blankets inside curtained beds that created pockets of trapped body warmth, sometimes sharing the same structure with livestock whose natural heat added to the building's thermal system, all while layered wool clothing, calorie-dense stews simmering over embers, and carefully banked coals stretched precious fuel through the longest nights, proving that the real medieval winter hack wasn't endless firewood but intelligent design, disciplined resource use, and tight-knit community turning smoky, crowded cottages into surprisingly survivable shelters when every spark truly mattered. As winter deepened, medieval villagers relied on a combination of resourcefulness, architecture, and community to survive what we would consider unimaginable cold, because every detail of daily life was geared toward conserving heat and maximizing the utility of scarce fuel, from the compact design of cottages with low ceilings and small doors that trapped warm air to the use of wattle and daub walls packed with mud and straw that acted as thermal mass, slowly releasing heat absorbed from a central hearth, while smoke from peat or dried dung lingered near the roof to insulate the thatch and wooden beams, and families clustered tightly in curtained beds, sharing body heat and even the warmth of livestock kept in adjoining spaces, while clothing layers of wool and fur, heavy enough to restrict movement, created portable insulation, and diet played a hidden but critical role, as hearty pottages, warm ale, and salted meats provided both calories and internal warmth, with food preparation itself contributing to heating the room. Every ember was carefully managed. Coals were banked at night, peat fed in measured blocks, and dung cakes rotated so the fire could last longer without consuming precious wood, because a single wasted spark could mean the difference between comfort and frostbite, and villagers planned their lives around these necessities, harvesting fuel in summer, repairing roofs before the first snow, and storing grains and vegetables in cellars insulated naturally by earth, while timing their chores to daylight hours to conserve light and warmth, and turning communal activity into survival strategy, since spinning wool, carving tools, and storytelling by the hearth kept spirits high, reduced the perception of cold, and reinforced bonds that were as crucial to survival as the physical warmth itself. Even the smallest architectural choices like door height, placement of the hearth in the center of the room, and the positioning of furniture to block drafts were deliberate, as was the use of animal skins on beds and floors to trap heat where it was most needed, and these practices created a delicate ecosystem where heat, smoke, human and animal energy, and stored fuel all worked together seamlessly, proving that surviving a medieval winter was not about luxury or abundance, but about precision, preparation, and cooperation. And while modern eyes might see mud walls, smoky interiors, and crowded living quarters as primitive or uncomfortable, for those who lived in them, they represented ingenious solutions to extreme environmental challenges and a mastery of energy efficiency born from necessity rather than theory, so that even in the coldest months, families could wake each morning warm enough to perform their daily tasks, tend to animals, repair tools, cook, and maintain the home, all while using as little wood as possible. And by the end of winter, the cottages, though dark and smoky, had proven themselves as resilient, self-sustaining shelters where every ember, every wall, every curtain, and every shared body heat contributed to survival, showing that the true $0 wood hack was not a single trick, but a combination of architectural ingenuity, disciplined resource management, communal living, and strategic planning, a holistic approach that allowed medieval villagers to endure harsh winters that would have broken anyone unprepared, and leaving a powerful lesson for modern life, that efficiency, adaptation, and community can turn scarcity into sustainability, and that the warmth of a small, well-prepared home can rival the coldest forces of nature. As winter reached its peak, medieval villagers demonstrated a level of ingenuity and resilience that modern people often underestimate, because surviving months of freezing temperatures with minimal fuel required a combination of architectural design, careful resource management, strategic planning, and communal cooperation, where every aspect of the home and daily life served the purpose of conserving heat and stretching scarce materials, starting with the cottages themselves, which were compact, low-ceilinged, and carefully oriented to minimize wind exposure and retain warmth, with walls made of wattle and daub, woven sticks coated with mud, clay, sticks coated with mud, clay, and straw, that absorbed heat from the central hearth during the day and slowly released it at night, creating a steady background warmth, while small doors and tiny windows reduced drafts and heat loss, a concept as simple as it is brilliant. Inside these homes, the hearth wasn't just a cooking space, but the heart of the survival system, placed centrally so heat radiated evenly to every corner. And 5, fueled by peat blocks cut months earlier from nearby bogs, dried cow dung, and other low-cost combustible materials that burned slowly and efficiently, with villagers carefully banking coals at night so the embers could survive until morning, feeding the fire only what was necessary, and using smoke strategically, rather than seeing it as a nuisance, allowing it to linger near the roof where it helped insulate the thatch and timber beams, deter pests, and even preserve the structure from moisture damage, turning what would seem like discomfort into a functional tool of survival. In addition to clever architecture and fire management, the villagers relied heavily on the heat produced by living beings, clustering together in curtained beds made of heavy wool to trap body warmth, while livestock often shared adjoining spaces. or sometimes even the main living area, radiating heat that contributed to the overall thermal environment, a system that modern building science would recognize as passive heating, though it evolved entirely out of necessity and practical observation, and this human and animal heat was complemented by layered clothing, thick woolen cloaks, and fur coverings that insulated against the cold, while the preparation and consumption of food added another layer of warmth, as hearty stews, porridges, and warm drinks provided both calories to fuel metabolism and residual heat that lingered in the room. Beyond these physical strategies, survival depended on meticulous planning and seasonal foresight, with fuel harvested and dried in summer, roofs repaired before frost, cellars insulated by earth to store grains and vegetables, and every task timed to conserve energy and maximize daylight, creating a rhythm where winter's harshness was softened, not by chance but by preparation and even leisure activities. Spinning wool, mending tools, storytelling, and communal crafts served a dual purpose, keeping people engaged, fostering social bonds, and reducing the perception of cold, proving that psychological comfort was as critical as physical warmth. In the cottages, small design choices magnified survival. From low doors and compact furniture arrangements that prevented drafts to the positioning of beds and workspaces that concentrated warmth where it was most needed, and the use of animal skins on floors and benches to trap heat further illustrates how every element of the home was intentionally integrated into the survival strategy, creating a system where fire, walls, smoke, humans, animals, and even dirt floors contributed to a self-sustaining microclimate that required minimal fuel and maximum efficiency. And while outsiders might imagine medieval peasants enduring bitter cold with primitive, uncomfortable conditions, the reality was that these homes represented sophisticated adaptations to a hostile environment, balancing risk, comfort, and efficiency in a way that modern survivalists could admire, because the villagers didn't waste heat on empty spaces or unused rooms. They didn't burn logs for show, and they didn't rely on luck. Instead, they relied on understanding the properties of materials, the behavior of fire, the thermal contribution of living bodies, and the importance of preparation months in advance, creating a finely tuned ecosystem where survival was woven into every aspect of life. By the end of winter, families emerged not because the cold was weak, but because their homes, routines, and communities had been designed to outlast it, demonstrating that the true $0 wood hack wasn't a single secret, but an integrated system of architecture, behavior, and social cooperation, a holistic approach that maximized efficiency and minimized waste, proving that medieval villagers with no modern tools or technologies could endure conditions that would challenge anyone today, and leaving a powerful lesson for us. Survival is rarely about abundance. It is about ingenuity, preparation, and the intelligent use of every available resource, and that even the coldest, darkest months can be endured when design, foresight, and community work together to turn scarcity into resilience, smoke into insulation, mud into thermal mass, and simple cottages into homes capable of sustaining life against the harshest forces of nature.